And now, coming to you live from the City of Angels, Los Angeles, California, it's the Sheena Metal Experience with your host, Sheena Metal, only on KGRA Digital Broadcasting.
Hi, and welcome to the Sheena Metal Experience on KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. I'm your host, Sheena Metal. I'm a psychic medium. I'm an interfaith minister. I'm a 27-year talk radio host, and I come to you live each week on Friday at 3 o'clock Pacific time from my home in Los Angeles, California. This show is about spirituality. It's about creativity. It's about humanity. It's about passion. It's about service. It's about becoming your best you and then inspiring others to do the same in this big, beautiful world. And it may each week be my show, my friends, but it is always and forever your experience. My guest today is a wonderfully talented spiritual practitioner, psychic medium, author, speaker, all-around wonderful person who I love to have on every creative endeavor that I do. Please welcome to the Sheena Metal Experience, the wonderful Hollister Rand is here. How are you, my friend? It's good to see your face.
Good to see you. I'm so glad we're together.
We've done so much radio, but this is my first time actually seeing you when we do one of these.
Well, how fun is that?
It's fantastic. One of the things I love the most about you, I've never told you this, is that you have been doing this such a long time and you're so well known and so renowned at what you do, but you still have this kind of youthful effervescence about it. Because I think sometimes when people start with their vocation, their passion, their career, however you want to put it, they think it's going to be one thing and they're all excited. And then they realize, like all things in life, right, there are ups and downs and ebbs and flows. And sometimes people get very jaded and unenthusiastic. And you don't seem to have any of that. You just continually have this excitement, like you just discovered your gifts and it's your first week.
You know, I decided very early on that I never wanted to lose my enthusiasm. And imagine my surprise when I found out that my birth name, which I will not say here to protect my family, but my birth name means enthusiastic, filled with God. Imagine when you just said enthusiasm, I'm like, yeah. I was born under the star of enthusiasm, filled with God. That level of divine creativity matched with the frequency of divine love. And that's where I come from, because the spirits work with us in creating our lives. In some ways, we stand on the shoulders of our ancestors, but in another way, they walk beside us. And so that walking beside us is kind of where I join in and just go for the walk with everybody. And it's been quite a journey. I am maybe even more thrilled and excited about what I do now than I was when I first started. And by the way, I'm far too young to have been doing this as many years as I actually have.
You know, and we've talked about this before. Life is what it is, right? Everything in the universe is a blend of positive and negative, because there can't really be one without the other. So you can either look at everything in your life you don't like, or you can look at everything in your life that you do like, and you can focus on the positive. And it's not being a Pollyanna, and it's not looking at life through rose-colored glasses. It's just accentuating in your life the positive things and moving with that. And, you know, I kept my gifts very hidden for a long time, because I worked in the entertainment business and I was sure I'd be rode out on a rail the minute I said I was a psychic. So when I opened my practice a handful of years ago, everybody I knew, many people I knew that were spiritual practitioners said, oh, after a while, you'll get sick of clients. You'll learn to hate it. I can tell you, I love clients. I love seeing clients. I love my clients. Not everything they say is positive. They're not always in a good mood. I'm cheering a lot of people up and healing a lot of people, but I still approach it like it was my first week, and I love it. And I think that's a lesson for everyone to, in everything you do, whether you've been doing it a week or 50 years, find what you love in it and focus on that, because and then do that in your private life as well, because that's kind of that positivity, right, is what
Well, I
fuels us
like
through the
the
rough times.
idea. I like the idea of a beginner's mind.
Yes.
I remember when my first book came out. I'm Not Dead, I'm Different is what it's called. But when that book came out, and I was starting to be booked on talk shows and things like that, they booked me as an expert. And I kept telling people, I'm not an expert. I'm a learner. I never want to be that expert where it's like, I have arrived, I know it all. Because guess what? As soon as we begin to reach a certain expanded consciousness, there's more. And so when I meet with clients, when I do events, whether on Zoom or in person, I ask the spirits, show me something new. Show me a way to connect that I haven't experienced before. Bring something new to me so that we can all continue to grow. And I always bring this to my students as well, because as soon as you get set in, this is how they communicate, this is how it's said, this is how it works for me. Don't move my chair. This crystal goes here. As soon as you do all, no, but that's happened. I mean, I once borrowed a psychic's room and I moved the quartz crystal, and you would have thought the world ended. Okay, so when we become so ritualistic about things that the original energy is misplaced or misdirected. So the idea of looking at everything with fresh eyes, show me something new. And that takes a level of trust in your relationship with the spirits. Because when you walk out in front of a group of people, or when you walk in with a person you haven't met before, and you say to spirits, show me something new. I want to work with you in this way. You're working without a net. You're not controlling the outcome. And that's really important to know as psychics and mediums, that we do not control what spirits do. So therefore, you can't make a certain person show up, and you can't make them say something the person wants to hear.
Right.
It is a cooperative experience.
Absolutely. Yes, of course. And I think that part of walking your spiritual path, right, and part of putting Hollister so many earth years here on the earth. So it's the combination of the learning from the earth years and our earthbound self, and the evolvement of our spiritual self as we walk our path is really, I mean, if spirit tells me once, they tell me 100 times every day, don't sweat the small stuff. It's not about, oh my God, somebody moved my crystal an inch. It's about the energy that maybe somebody brought to my room when they used it. Isn't that nice? That room didn't have that energy and now it does. It's about looking at the big picture all the time and not getting hung up in the tiny details. And, I've been in crystals my whole life. My mother, I tell the story all the time, but
that's funny. I brought up the crystal thing. So what I'm talking about.
When we moved, when I was a kid, the crystals were never allowed to go in the moving van. They always had to go in the car. And we moved from state to state as my dad got promoted. And I spent my life in the backseat of a station wagon with my feet up on a giant box of rocks and a dog under each arm. I mean, that was literally how we moved. But my mom sort of lived with them like they were living things. So when people say to me now, you shouldn't use a rose quartz for that, or you shouldn't use malachite for that, I think, you know what? That's like saying, well, you shouldn't go roller skating with that friend because that's your movie's friend. When the crystals say pick me up, you need me, you pick it up, and you don't think about, well, a book said it's only for this.
Yes.
And I think it's the same thing with your spiritual gifts, right? And when you get messages from beyond, they're not always telling you the same thing. They're not always telling you what you think they're going to tell you. They're telling you what they think their living loved one needs to know, or they think you need to know. I have a client who has a deceased Sphinx cat. And I, for many, many years, have wanted a Sphinx cat, but have yet to get one. Every once in a while, that little bugger turns up in my car and basically celestially busts my balls because I don't have a Sphinx cat yet. So for him, that's an important thing. He's like, hey, when are you getting the cat? I never met this cat in my earthbound life. So I think people expect those that have passed to act the way that we act here. But once they've passed, right, Hollister, they no longer have all of the worries and the anxieties and the restrictions that we put on ourselves here on Earth.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've covered so much ground in
So
that,
sorry.
in what you just
I do
said.
that.
But one of the things that comes to mind is a spirit circle in which two sisters came and they sat not next to each other. So they weren't giving the indication that they were together.
Right.
But a father in spirit showed up, talked to each of them, saying to one, "It's okay, I don't need my suits." And here he is. This spirit was like in flip-flops, a Hawaiian shirt, and shorts,
Right.
And the other sister gasped because they were arguing over renting a storage unit for their father's suits. One daughter was saying, "Dad doesn't need these suits anymore." And the other daughter was saying, "Dad loved his suits. He would want us to hold on to them." And here he shows up very specifically looking like he's sitting on a beach in Hawaii. So,
Yeah.
The spirits do not hold on to those things and do not expect us to hold on to things for them.
Right.
So that's
Yes.
really important. Now, where some of the exceptions may be is in heirloom pieces of jewelry or special items that had special meaning. And the reason is it's not because these things are valuable, although some of them may be. The reason is it holds their energy. So if someone has been wearing the same set of pearls or the same watch or something, a ring that they have worn all the time, it's almost like a signature. It holds their energy. And in that way, it helps. It's almost like it's an instant connection. You wear that jewelry, their energy is with you. And so when I hear spirits talk about what they want people to have within the family, it's almost always things like that.
Yes, yes. And oftentimes it's also emotional things, right? And spiritual things. They want you to not spend the rest of your life grieving for them. They want you to go on with your life. They want you to find love again. They want you to find that spiritually zen place that they have found in spirit. It amazes me, and you probably hear this all the time, how many people say to me, my loved one passed. Are they mad? Are they upset? Are they full of anguish? And I always say those are really earthbound concepts. Once you pass and you go home and you're filled with all this love and you're just energy, you don't really want to be angry or resentful or hold grudges. I mean, there are exceptions. There are always exceptions.
There are exceptions, yeah.
But spirits at rest, they're mostly just worried about you and the angst that you're carrying as a human being.
One of the things that I have found to be most important with my work, and this is almost surprising to me, is how the spirits want to correct the versions of their deaths that we carry with us.
Right.
The idea of "Dad died alone." I don't even know how many times I have heard that. And then I hear from a father in spirit, "I chose to die when you walked out of the room because I want you to remember it always as my being alive. I did not want that to be your last memory of my dying with you there." So, and then others will want someone present. Another thing is people who have passed after long bouts of Alzheimer's, and we're thinking, "Oh my God, they're stuck in these bodies. They have no consciousness. They don't know who I am. This is horrible." And I will hear from people who have had Alzheimer's, the gifts people brought to them. I had one lady talk about a thing of See's candy, a box of See's candy. And she remembered not only what was in the box, but who brought it.
Yeah.
So the level of consciousness exists whether the body can express it or not. I have had people who've died in horrific accidents tell their loved ones they were out of their bodies before the car exploded.
Yes.
Things like this. There is such grace, such freedom. Those we love are so taken care of at the time of dying and death that what we tell ourselves about it is often not true.
Yeah, that's very true. Yes. And I think as human beings do, right? We try to make everything into a human experience, even for those who are no longer having a human experience. Um, that's just a human being thing, right? We think about it. We have our little me cam on our forehead, and we look at everything from a human perspective. Um,
And how we may have failed. And
right,
that's the
right,
thing, the idea of I wasn't there, couldn't do this, the
right.
level of love and acceptance and peace and joy that come from the side of the spirits. Because I work very specifically at the frequency of divine love.
Mm,
After working a number of
beautiful.
years in ghost busting, I didn't like those guys. I didn't like the kind of the nasty group in the
Yeah.
universe. So I like working at the frequency of divine love. And in that space that is set when I'm talking with people's loved ones, they come in love. And it was so funny. I had a session the other day, and a father in spirit showed up. The mother's first husband showed up that the daughter
Wow.
hadn't even met. And then a stepfather showed up, and they were
Wow.
all there. Now, granted, June is Father's Day month, but still, I mean, it was kind of like a papalooza, it was just fathers everywhere.
Yes,
So,
yes, right?
and it was intriguing because at that point it was made very clear to me that bloodlines matter, certainly, but
Yes.
love lines matter as much. And
Mhm.
so these three men knew each other, even though they didn't know each other in life,
Mm,
and they were all there for her, even if she didn't know her mother's first husband. So it was so intriguing to me. This is the stuff that floats my boat. When I start seeing how we are networked
right.
and how the spirits work together on our behalf and how it moves us all forward. So,
Mm,
we were talking earlier about where do you send your attention?
yes.
Well, I did a whole course on hope. Where is hope? And this was during the pandemic. Where is
Mm,
hope? The spirits come with hope. This idea of connectedness, knowing that everyone who has lived on this earth plane has experienced everything we're experiencing now.
yes.
And so they are here to help guide us. Imagine my surprise when I discovered that a relative of mine, at the start of the pandemic, my dad said, well, about Uncle Emil. I'm like, who? He said, well, Uncle Emil, he died during the flu pandemic of
Oh,
1918.
wow.
I'm like, really? I have not heard of this man before. Well, I can tell you that I have felt Uncle Emil around me through this whole time.
I bet.
And
Yeah.
this is a man I never even met. And I thought, okay, Uncle Emil, here we go. He died after 2 years of marriage. He died in the second wave of the flu
Wow.
epidemic. And, and here we are. So I thought, thank you, Uncle Emil. Never met the man, but boy, have I felt him so many times. So that's what I would say is even if you did not know your ancestors, even if you did not know your father, those spirits are in your network.
Yes. Yes, absolutely true. Yeah, and even some that you are not from this life, somebody that you encountered in another life, right? Are spirit guides who were not on this earth with us. I mean, there's more things in heaven and earth, right? There
Absolutely. Oh,
so
it's
many looking
endless.
out for you. Just the amount of energies that are in source itself, right? That's why people always refer to God as he or she, and I always say they because there's so much in there. There's so much divine love that has your back all the time and is always behind you. The idea of feeling alone on the earth, I understand as an earthbound human how you can feel like that, but you have to remember how much celestial love there is around you all the time and how many souls there are looking out for you and have your back. And that's something I think that helps my clients when I tell them. It helps me in strange times to know that, we're not here by ourselves. This is everybody's been through this. We're all doing this again and again and again. This is soul school, and we're all coming back for each semester. And you don't have to feel like you're alone because you're not, because we're loved and protected even when we make bad decisions, we're still loved and protected and encouraged to do better.
You know, the
You know?
value that we as humans bring to the spirit world, you know, you might wonder, like, what the heck do we bring to the table? Well, one of the reasons incarnation is so important is
Yes.
because our incarnation gives spirit a place to work on earth.
Right.
And that is real. So whether you are aware of it or not, or know you're doing it or not, you are giving spirit a presence on this earth.
Yes.
And so by choosing and becoming more aware and being connected and co-creating your life with spirit, and I've taught classes on this, by being intentional, that is what changes the world. You know, we are here as, you know, it's like there's a banquet of life here on this planet, and we're running around putting place cards on it for spirit.
Yes. Yes.
You know, and so they are now able to functionally move in a physical way on this planet because of us. And I'm not just talking about mediums and psychics. I'm talking about everybody. I'm talking about your cat. You know, I'm talking about your dog. I have a dog called Bodhisattva. And he was such a gift when I got him. You know, I asked for a Chihuahua, a rescue Chihuahua under, 4 pounds or less. And people said, that's impossible. And I said, I wanted a quiet one that loved people and was spiritually connected. And, I started getting like looks from people because there is such a Chihuahua. Yes, there is. And his name is Bodhi, and we've had a health crisis with Bodhi. He's getting up in years. And when there was this crisis, I looked at him and I said, Bodhi, if you want to stay here, we will do what is necessary to help you stay in body. If you would like to leave this body, we can still be together and that will be just fine. Well, on the way to the animal emergency where I thought I was going to have to release Bodhi to spirit, we get the call, well, his blood work is in the normal range. What? I mean, what? So, because my deal with him was, if your values are in the normal range, you're giving me a very clear message that you want to see. So know that your animals understand you. Know that as I was working out a deal with Bodhi, we have contracts and deals with our spirits. And as we co-create our lives, we can ask and asks are answered, not always in the way we might expect. But this is a backward and forward kind of thing all the time. Are you all right? Am I choking you up?
Exactly. I'm universe is answering your spiritual call with me sneezing.
Well, I thought you were having a psychic hairball, that kind of thing. That's like,
that's it.
Whenever I do meditations with a group, it's so funny when you're starting to open up people's audience, which is here. All of a sudden, the whole group, everyone's like,
that's fantastic.
I call it the psychic hairball. Yeah.
I was gonna cough up a prophecy. No, but I agree. And animals are interesting how they come to guide us, right? I mean, I have an animal. I just lost my 18-year-old in November, and I know that she was the same soul that was my very first one. They even looked just the same. Mm-hmm. And then I had a tabby he was like my soulmate, Seamus, and I was sure he was going to come back. And then when this little guy got thrown accidentally in my lap at 3 days old, I thought that was what was going on, but he's actually the soul of Liam, who was my little troublemaker that everybody told me to get rid of. Get rid of that cat, he sprays. And I didn't, man. We hung in there together till the end. But he's so different this time. He's so much like him, but at the same time, he doesn't have all of the earthbound PTSD and trauma that sometimes a stray gets when you adopt them at an older age. When you have them from the time they're 3 days old, they're filled with your love for as long as they can remember. And this little guy has gotten me through the pandemic because it's a lonely time when suddenly you don't see people, you're not hugging your friends. You know, I grew up in the entertainment business. We're all very tactile with each other, and suddenly that was gone. And this little guy, I always laugh. He gives me 100 kisses a day. I swear he does. And I let him wake me up at 6 a.m. for kisses because it's as good for me as it is for him. But he has really kind of gotten me through this odd time during the pandemic. And I believe that they come into your life just like people do, to heal you and to help you and to let them let you know they're part of your soul family. I think that's so often why we get one that's the same soul that we had before, because they're just part of our soul family at home. And they come down because guess what? Somebody needs me. I got to go. And I would do the same thing if I was hanging out at home, like your client's dad in a Hawaiian print shirt and flip flops, and somebody in my soul family needed me on the earth, I'd come right back to help. So that's another thing of not feeling alone, right?
I just love the animals, and I love talking to animals because, there are truths that animals speak. I remember I was doing a small group, and I came to a man in his 30s, and I saw no people with him. And that's a little concerning as a medium. You kind of want to see the spirits popping up with someone. But I saw a German Shepherd dog with him in spirit.
Interesting.
And I said to him, all I see with you, I said, I don't see people, but I see a German Shepherd dog. And he said, yes, he had lost his childhood dog. And this dog went on to talk about how, as a young boy, he told his dog everything. Did not tell everything to anybody else. But this dog held all of his thoughts and his feelings close to his heart. He was this young man's confidant for his entire life. What a privileged, beautiful place to be.
Yes.
So we cannot underestimate the value of animals. And I now have a new dog. I got her right at the beginning of the pandemic. I call her Corona Kala because she doesn't let anyone get within 6 feet of me. She was traumatized before I got her. So a rescue as well. So we're working with her, but she has come a long way. Love truly heals.
Yes, it's true. And animals give in a way that I was going to say that it takes us years to figure out how to give like that. But the truth is, we come out of the box knowing how to give like that, right? And then humans impose upon us this feeling like we need to be guarded and don't laugh too loud and don't cry in front of other people. And you didn't really see that spirit. There are no spirits. And kids begin to stop being the beautiful spirit-bound creatures that come here and start being earthbound creatures with all their isms. And it takes us a long time to peel back those layers. And I find with our animal companions, I mean, yes, they're affected by trauma, but they seem to stay a lot more open at heart than we do. It takes a lot more to kind of shut them down and pull them back than it does with us. And I believe it's their constant and direct conversation with spirit that goes on all the time.
All the time. And one of the ways that we can have that ongoing connection with spirit, you and I were talking before the show actually started about creativity. And both of us have been in the entertainment industry. So that's what I was doing. And actually, there was a lady, because at the time I was in the entertainment industry, I was also on radio giving, messages on K Big 104 and Coast FM. So I was on these radio shows. So my voice is kind of distinctive. So people, I found out later that there was a woman who worked at the studio who would walk by my desk. And when she got close to my office, she would start saying, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. She started counting so that I couldn't read her thoughts. And I said, I really have much, more things to do than try to intrude on your thoughts. But the idea that I was sitting there mind reading the people around me, there are certainly rules, regulations, understandings, boundaries. With the work that we do, it is not invasive in that way. And I'm just
Yes.
not a mind reader. I'm an energy reader. That's very, very different. But thoughts are real things. So as
Yes.
we connect with spirit in sort of a creative realm, that energy, so she wasn't entirely wrong with the idea that thoughts are real things and spirits can connect to those thoughts. This idea of being creative in any way, whether it's through music, whether it's art. I tell people, take up finger painting, whatever it is for you,
Sure. Yes.
however you can exercise your creativity, spirit meets you there.
Yes.
Creativity is one of the easiest ways to get connected with the spirits.
Yes, yes. And I told you my mom was also a psychic medium, and I always say she was a psychic medium who wasn't raised by a psychic medium. So she had all this anxiety around it that I didn't grow up with, because I grew up with her telling me everything was okay. She was a wonderful fine artist, and that was really where she channeled a lot of her, when her empathy got too big and everything became overwhelming to her, she would paint, or she would sculpt, or she would needlepoint or embroider or something. And that was kind of where she went. And it became a cathartic space for her. And I think it got her through a lot of those feelings of overwhelm that we as empaths all have, to be able to focus on something and at the same time to make something for the world. Never underestimate how much it heals you when you make something to heal somebody else. I have a spiritual practitioner friend used to say, every time you give a healing, you get a healing. And boy, is that true. I mean, when I do a whole day of healings, I'm high as a kite afterwards from all of the spirit moving through me and just the energy of healing. So never underestimate how much it will help and heal you to heal somebody else. And that could just be smiling, chatting up the barista at Starbucks and saying something nice, holding a door for somebody. I mean, random acts of kindness are also ways to heal, right?
Absolutely, because it allows a presence of divine love on the planet. Once
Yes.
again, we are not working as solo individuals here. So
Yes.
everything we do has the impetus of spirit energy behind us. So
Yes.
once we choose what our intent is, and once we choose the frequency at which we
Yes.
want to live and work and be, then we're setting it up. I do grounding, protection, and intention every morning
Mm.
before I
Yes.
get out of bed. And sometimes
Yes.
I have to tell you, the urgency to get to the bathroom at a certain age makes you want to just jump out of bed. I won't do it because I just want that minute or so of
Right.
being fully in my body and
Right.
setting the intention of the day.
Right. Right. I'm grounding my bladder. I'm grounding my
Yes.
bladder.
Yes.
I'm
Exactly.
I'm the opposite. I go take care of the bladder, come back, and then do the
All right.
grounding.
Yes. Well,
Right.
that's fine. But I know that I need to ground myself before I put my feet on the ground, because
Yes.
I can be very wobbly.
Right.
The
Yes.
energy of the universe, everything that's been going on this past 2.5 years. I'm an extremely grounded person, and I'm a Capricorn. I'm an earth sign. I
Right.
practice grounding. I naturally work, with grounding. My sign is grounding. Everything's grounding about me. But there was one day during the pandemic when I fell over. I
Oh,
stood up. I
yeah.
was standing there. It wasn't that I was dizzy, but it was as though a wave of energy came and hit me. And I just, I went over.
Mm.
So I thought, wow, if that can happen to maybe the most grounded person on the planet, whoa, what is happening with everybody else? So I
Yeah.
started working with people doing much more grounding. I sort of really brought a lot of that into, my talking about spirit.
Absolutely. Yeah. And grounding is the most important thing. I wear gold charms that I've been collecting since my mother gave me my first when I was 16. And they all mean something to me spiritually, including starting with my theater masks, because that's my creativity, right? And they hang
I
right on my
have the
solar
same
plexus
charm,
chakra.
by the way. I have the
You have
same
the
charm
mask?
on a charm bracelet that my mother gave me. Yes.
Wow.
Yes,
Isn't
I
that
do.
amazing? And she was so beautiful because I was an actor when I was young and I was about to play Aunt Eller in Oklahoma. And it was opening night. And I opened this little box and there it was as we were going to the theater to go to the call. And she said, never forget who you are. And that was so important to me because so many of my friends' parents were like, when you got to quit that acting, kid. And she was letting me, acknowledging to me, I know this is who you are in your soul. Don't ever stop being a creative person. And it was just piece by piece little things and more that I've collected since she passed and that people I love have given me. But they all have a super significant thing. And I keep them right on my solar plexus chakra all the time. They hang low. Um, I always say when I walk around in the middle of the night and I hear dinging, I don't know, Hollister, if it's me or the cat. I'm like, one
Yeah.
of us is here. I'm not sure who's dinging, but it's one of us. But
But the mice know. The mice are very
exactly,
clear.
they know the difference. But when
Yes,
I
they
do
do.
when I do work, like you said, when I do the spirit investigations, when I'm doing the paranormal gigs, and people say to me, what do I need to do to go into this location and ground? I always say, first of all, you should be grounding all the time, not just 5 minutes before you walk into an active house. You should always be grounding. And many people think that the wise men brought Jesus gold because it was wealth. But the truth was, it's because frankincense, myrrh, and gold, right, are three of the biggest elements for protection. It was to protect this spiritual soul that had come to the earth. Find something that means something to you. It can be a crystal, whatever it is, and wear it on you, keep it on you, hold it on you, put it around your wrist, your finger, your neck, whatever it is. But we should always be grounding all the time. And I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah, the spirits, our body is our address. And so I like to remind people of that. Being fully and completely in our bodies and grounded connects
Mm-hmm.
us to the spirits. We don't have to
Yes.
fly around trying to find them. This
Right.
is
Right.
being right here.
Yes.
They're like, oh, there's Hollister Rand. They're not searching around. I'm not, floating above my body. But you know what I'm
Right.
saying? It's like,
We're not Waldo.
oh, yeah, that if there's a zebra print or a leopard print anywhere to be found in Southern California, there's Hollister. So, but it really is this idea of being fully present in our body.
Yes.
It's essential for the work that we do. And you know what? Sometimes it's a little painful. Being an empath, when you are feeling the pain of the world, we cannot sidestep that because that's our greatest gift as psychics and mediums.
Yes.
So the idea that compassion is where empathy and pain meet, I think is an important concept. This idea that it might be a little painful, but if we are present in our bodies, that pain can move through us instead of our trying to avoid it by distraction and being out of our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Because at that point, it can be transmuted. I took an alchemy class. The idea of turning dross into gold, substandard things and creating gold. Once again, it wasn't about wealth, but it really was about transformation.
Yes.
And I realized that those of us who are empaths are pain alchemists.
Mm-hmm.
And we transmute the dross of pain into the gold of love.
Yes.
That's what spirit
can do
with
Beautifully
our work.
Said.
And that, that's what keeps me going.
I agree. And I tell my clients all the time, Hollister, right now you think being an empath is the worst thing. When I teach classes on empathy, I always start by saying, congratulations, you're an empath, and my condolences, you're an empath. But I teach people that the thing that you think is the biggest hindrance to your life, you will realize is the most beautiful thing about your life. You just need to know how to control it and how to control the amount of input that comes in. But once you learn how to kind of figure it out, you will realize that it's the most beautiful thing. And it's why so many creative people, right, are empaths and sometimes have emotional problems because they're super empaths. Because when you are channeling creativity, you're basically, I always say normal people, the channel's like this, and for empaths, it's like this. You're getting all that information. It's coming through so that you can create a character or write something or create a dance or sing something or whatever it is, sculpt something, whatever your creativity is, it cooks something, it's coming through that channel. And when it comes in waves. I mean, I've had to pull out, napkins at a sushi restaurant and start writing things down that were coming, song ideas or radio show topics or workshop, whatever it is. When it starts coming, I just better have a pen. That's a lot for some folks, that much input coming in all the time. But when you learn how to control it, you realize that it is utterly magic. Your empathy is the most magic thing about you. And it's the thing I'm the most proud of. And as a spiritual practitioner and as an artist, in both of those areas, I consider myself an empath first. And it all kind of comes from there. Do you feel that same way?
Well, I can say that as a child, I didn't know what I was, but I knew I was different. And so I think that these days, I want to find all the different people and join the hearts together.
Nice.
To really change the whole planet. I've worked with people. I had one client who could not touch a doorknob because she was so sensitive.
Yeah.
And, and she said things like, "You have changed my life. You have saved my life." And I did not. She found me, so she saved her own life. But I was just that much further along with the understanding and the tools to help people deal with this. I taught a workshop in New York for actors. And one of the things I helped actors with was grounding, was being very intentional when they were creating characters. I mean, one of the most haunted places on the planet are theaters. It's like almost every theater has some ghost hanging around, so there's this connection with spirit and creativity. And it's important to know when it's you and when it's not you.
Right.
So especially if you're playing a historical character, you can align with the energy of that character. And I've heard actors say, "It wasn't me. That wasn't me. That was, I was in the zone. Something happened.
Yeah.
I felt like I was watching myself outside of myself."
Sure. Yes.
Right. So working with actors in being, if you're going to go into trance when you're, playing a character, what does that look like? How to retain your hand on the way you calibrate yourself.
Yes.
When your mother gave you that charm, the remember who you are, part of that is not just your creativity, but it's remember who you are despite whatever character you may be playing. That at the core of everything is you. And so when I work with actors, that's an important component. What's me? What's not me? And that's also important when I'm teaching people with mediums, their mediumship, how to develop what is me, what is not me, and putting space between those two things.
Yes.
So that, if you feel something, it's out here. It's not all of a sudden here.
Absolutely.
So, and I love working with actors. And I
do too.
Yeah. And it's really, it's helpful because it's easy to get overwhelmed.
Absolutely. And it's so important, like you said, as it is for spiritual practitioners, it's so important to separate your human life from your spiritual life. I mean, obviously they are one and they are joined and they are union, and that's what spirit wants. But you have to also give yourself time for your own earthbound life, because the stronger and more connected to your core you are, the more messages you'll receive and the easier it is to pass those messages on. Just like as an actor, as a creative person, the more you take care of yourself, your body, your mind, your heart, your soul, the more you can give to a character without giving away so much of yourself that you wind up losing yourself, and ultimately it sacrifices the performance. It's important that we stay strong within ourselves. So it's like putting your oxygen mask on first so you can go out and save the plane, right?
Well, yes. And as a medium, I will only work so much. I set limits. So no matter what the demand is, in order for me to bring my best to each session and to each spirit and to each sitter, I have to be sure that my energy is high and I'm able to match that frequency of divine love. So therefore, I don't allow the demand to set my schedule.
Yes. Yes. And that's wonderful. Yeah. I feel the same way about the medium work. I mean, I could literally do back-to-back spiritual counseling sessions for, 3 days. I could be in the Guinness Book of World Records, but when you do mediumship work, it's different, right?
It is different. And that's what, because some of my psychic friends can sit there 8 hours and do 8 hours of readings, and
yes.
it's like this. But with mediumship, because I work at the frequency of divine love, it's a very, very high frequency.
Yes.
And as human beings, we're quite dense. And so it's like setting yourself at a frequency where you're living a little bit in an earthquake area. It's like everything's trembling a little bit. And so there are limitations for how much we as human beings can vibrate at that in that space.
Yeah, it's true. And I think also you are I think people come to you for mediumship in a little bit of a different headspace. The earthbound people come in a little bit of a different headspace, and you are tapping into that world. And sometimes the folks over there can be very busy, and there's a bunch of them and they have a lot of messages for you. So it does seem to be a little more spiritually intensive.
It is. It's very spiritually intensive because, everybody has an entourage.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't
right.
One person, one spirit. That isn't how it works. So every time one person shows up on my screen or in my office, they're coming with a whole group. And it's important to be able to navigate and have a lexicon and an understanding of, if a spirit stands here, that's father's side of the family. If spirit stands here, mother's side, there's a lexicon, there's a way things are laid out that gives me a little bit of a shorthand.
Yes.
But people it isn't one spirit, one person. Nope. That's just not the way it is.
No, that's why sometimes when I'm somewhere and I'm doing someone else's show, or I'm doing like, little quickie free readings, and somebody will say, "Oh, are there any spirits that have anything to say to me?" I'm like, "Oh, honey, that's going to take way more than 5 minutes, because there's a whole bunch of them, and they're all trying to figure out who's going to step forward first." And sometimes it's not the one you go to talk to. Sometimes that one steps back, and somebody else you didn't even know steps forward, like your great uncle.
I had such a fun experience with Edgar Casey's ARE Foundation in Virginia Beach. I did a hybrid event with them. And so people were in the auditorium and people were also on Zoom. And I was on Zoom. So they had me on a big screen in this room, in the conference room. And a guy was manning the camera.
Wow.
So we agreed, I would sort of say, "Oh, lady in the back row with a pink shirt, or lady with white hair and a purple caftan," or whatever, whatever description. And he would zoom in on the camera. So there was a lady with white hair and a pink shirt. And I said, "Oh, the lady with the pink shirt." But before I could get white hair out, he zoomed in on a different lady in a different pink shirt, and a spirit showed up right next to her. And I went,
"There you go." Mm-hmm.
And I thanked him for his intuition.
Yes.
Because he went exactly where, and so if we think it's the Hollister Ranch show or the Sheena show, it's not.
No, it's
because
not. No.
It is so collaborative.
No.
And her husband had just died.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely needed to
Right.
hear from him. So it's very, very collaborative.
It's Hollister, it's always spirit show, right? We're just helping to facilitate
Yes,
it. No matter where we
exactly.
are, how we're doing it, what we're doing, it's always spirit show. We're just the radio that brings the messages through. And
Exactly.
that I think is one of the most beautiful things about life. You are wonderful. Let's do this again. Um, where can people find you online? Tell me everything about you people need to know. And thank you so much for being my guest today.
All right. Well, you can go to hollisterrand.com, HOLLISTERRAND.com, and you can find me there, and everything you need to know is there. The books are there, where I've been, how to get to videos, everything. I'm on Facebook. I've just gotten on TikTok, so I'm not hard to
Nice.
find. I'm not
Now,
hard
are
to
you
find.
are you teaching in person now, or are you still Zooming
Not
things?
yet, not yet,
Yeah,
but
me too.
I'm flying to Northern California where I'll be doing in-person sessions, groups, and things like that. So we're
Nice,
starting all of it.
nice.
Yeah,
It's starting to come back a little bit, right?
it
And how
is.
nice that now, in addition to it starting to come back, we all have this internet platform that's not going to go away. So it's
Exactly.
just given us a whole different area a whole different way to reach people in our spiritual work. And I think that's really wonderful.
I love it.
Thank you for being here, my friend. It was beautiful and wonderful to see your face. And thank you for bringing the divine love that you bring to people's lives and to the world every day. I'm honored to know you and call you my friend.
Well, same goes to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sweetheart. The wonderful Hollister Rand, everybody. If you missed those links, please visit her website, or if you missed that, you can come to my website and I'll pass it on, SheenaMetalSpiritual.com. Please go there and learn all kinds of things about me and what I do in the spiritual world and the entertainment world, how you can find me on the radio, how you can find this talk show on KGRA. And if you want to find me on social media, I'm just at Sheena Metal. And if you go to my TikTok right now, there's a wonderful little morning meditation. It's my kitty making biscuits on a purple heart pillow. And every time I watch it, it puts me to sleep. It'll probably do it for you too. So till I see you next time, my friends, seek peace, live in love, lead with kindness, embrace unity, always work to raise your vibration. And please know that you are love and you are loved. I'm Sheena Metal. This is the Sheena Metal Experience on KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. And I'll see you next Friday at 3 o'clock Pacific time. Thank you to KGRA. Thanks to Hollister Rand. We'll see you next time. Have a good weekend.